guys, welcome to my first ever video where I talk about my first book review. So, hey guys, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. This is my review of my first Collins novel that I have finished. This is Wilkie Collins' Basil. The type of novel. This novel is a sensation novel. A sensation novel is essentially just a combination of like your average realistic day in the life, like English life, alongside domestic crimes, crimes of passion, crimes of vengeance, mystery, suspense, stuff like that. So we will first get on to readability and my journey with this book. So I bought this book in early 2024. It is now 2026. Yes, we had a long, difficult journey. She really stuck with me. Not in the way you would think. She like, I just had this book for so long, and it's genuinely an easy read. Like, once you get into it, you get by so quickly. I don't know why it just took me 2 flipping years to get through the book, but we made it, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I treat my wife well, okay? I treat my wife well. I would read probably about like 100 pages and then take months before I pick it back up again. And so in 2026, I was like, this is getting ridiculous. Like, I can't read another book until I finish this book. So I really pushed myself to finish it, and we have finally done it, guys. We're divorcing now. I'm getting with another book. I am currently reading The Reluctant Fundamentalist by Mohsin Hamid. And so we say goodbye to Basil, and with that, we also have a book review. So welcome to my book review of my first Collins book. This is one of Collins' more underrated novels. I really did enjoy this novel. I think more so towards the end, where the plot starts thickening. There is more suspense. There is more drama going on. The first half of the novel, well, most of the novel is a retrospect of Basil's memories and him recounting his life and the things that he did in his life that led up to a lot of consequences that he had to face. So readability wise, 100%, it's an easy read. You just need to stay consistent. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Themes that this book mentions that I picked up from and that I want to focus on is the Freudian dreams. There's a lot of dreams that make its way and kind of bleed through the novel. One of my favorite dreams that is mentioned in this book is actually the dream that our main character Basil has of these 2 women. One is called Clara, one is called Margaret, and we're going to get into character analysis and each character. One of the themes that I really want to talk about is the destructive potential of female sexuality and perversions. Basically is kind of a warning for it's almost a warning of like what will happen to you if you try and leave or try and, you know, make yourself known, but like outside of that respectable society that we have built for you, the square. If you try and leave the square, then this is what will happen to you. It highlights like a lot of like marriageable consequences and the legalities of marriage. When you marry below your station, when you marry someone with a marriage filled of lies and deceit. It's a term we use called the double, where we have characters that mirror each other, or even the author, the writer, and how they mirror the characters in the book. So for an example, we've got quite a lot of doubles actually. We've got doubles between our protagonist and our antagonist, Basil and Mannion, and we've also got female characters, Clara and Margaret. So a little summary of this novel is our main character Basil, who falls in love with this beautiful, exotic looking and sexually promiscuous woman. She's actually a little girl. She's like not of age yet, but he falls in love with someone who is a linen draper's daughter below his station, and it follows his life of like this contract marriage he somehow falls upon, and his life and what happens to him during his life that leads to an era of violence and immense difficulty for our main character. It finishes off with most of the important characters dying, such as Basil's wife Margaret and Basil's and our antagonist Mannion, and it delves into a lot of themes of like hysteria and mania, which is very interesting. So you know what, it was really interesting how this book was deemed as immoral and criticized heavily. Meanwhile, I'm in the back end reading Murmur. I'm out here with codename Anastasia on my phone. Yeah, I've got Red Apple on my phone. Like it really puts into perspective like what people deem as immoral nowadays, but versus like back then, like what was taboo and what wasn't. But it was really interesting. So in terms of characters, we've got the family. So we've got Basil and Basil's older brother Ralph, Basil's younger sister Clara, and Basil's father. Basil is I want to say like 20, between like I want to say like mid-20s, and he's a very quiet man. He loves writing romance. He was in the middle of writing like a novel, and it was a romance novel. He's so immersed in his books and his writing and his manuscript and education. Our youngest, our baby Clara, she is an innocent angel. She is the Madonna of our lives. She is nothing short of pure ideal woman, and she has got beautiful long blonde hair, pale skin, beautiful big eyes that resemble her mother. We've got our sexy, delicious Dean. Okay, Ralph. I don't know if you know who my favorite character is. Yeah, Ralph. I love that man down. He's so Dean, like he's just so Dean coded from Supernatural. I just love him. He's so gorgeous. He lives a hedonistic lifestyle. He is the disappointment of the family, and he has always just lived for excitement and experiencing life for whatever it offers. And finally, we have our father, the head of the household, someone who really upholds family honor and respectability. So that says a lot about what kind of consequences Basil will face when he disgraces family honor. Characters outside of the main family, we have got Margaret, Mr. Sherwin, Mrs. Sherwin, and we've got Mannion. This is our antagonist. See Margaret and Mr. and Mrs. Sherwin. Margaret's their daughter, and Mannion is her tutor. Mannion is someone who has been in her life since she was very, very young. He is someone who is almost like a family friend to the Sherwin family, and he's been teaching Margaret since she was a young age. Unfortunately, Margaret has been groomed. You know, it's never said like explicitly, but like they have a very, very close relationship, and he has said in like multiple times how he would be perfectly curating this version of Margaret that suits him best. He was waiting for her in that, which means like he was waiting to have sex with her. I think so. I'm gonna move on to my favorite like things that I found really interesting. One of the things that I found interesting was the destructiveness of female perversions versus innocence, and the dreams that Basil himself was having about these two women. There's almost, I think it's said here, like in the early, like on the, like in the introduction, there is almost like an incestuous, like romantic attraction to Clara, and there is like a sexual attraction to Margaret. It's quite strange how dependent Basil is on his younger sister. There are multiple moments where when he's having like a manic episode and he's under hysteria, he is calling out Clara's name, which is quite odd. He has like this very confusing relationship with Clara in terms of his like how close he gets with Clara, you know. The doubling. So it's a term in English that we like to use when we have characters that kind of bounce off each other or mirror each other, or like are used to present multiple ideas through their characteristics, and like how they are like a double of like a theme or like something that the writer is trying to present. You know, we've got Clara, and she's like this, she's presented as like this chaste woman who is so angelic in like the way she presents herself, the way she talks, the way she like acts. She is just so innocent. She's the sort of woman that would be crying tears for the smallest request. You could literally be saying, like, she could literally be asking, like, Basil, do you want to go out on like, Basil, do you want to go out with me, like, go on a walk? And she'll literally be in tears, like, Basil, please. And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay. Right. Anyway, so like it's like this moment of like this doubling and how it like reflects on like the ideal woman and the fallen woman. Clara is evidently the ideal woman. She's a chaste woman. She is pure. She is innocent. She is angelic. She's got blonde hair and she's pale. Margaret, on the other hand, she is sexually promiscuous. She is cheeky. There's a moment where she's teasing this canary bird, not exactly giving it food, but teasing it constantly, and it just shows you like her immaturity, how cheeky she can be, how much of a brat she is. And that almost teasing of the bird, it kind of reflects how she is sexual in her being, if you want to take it there. She's doing that same thing, not sexually with the bird, but like it's meant to be symbolic of like her own character. We've got like these two parallels. We've got Clara and we've got Margaret, and I want to read you like a section in this novel where Basil has dreams of these two women. He has a dream, and it is very, very symbolic of how he feels about these women at the time. So this is just after he meets Margaret. Margaret has completely taken over his life, and Margaret is now the center of Basil's world. He has now replaced Clara, who used to be Basil's entire world. He has this dream, and this dream basically follows. He wakes up and he sees this woman emerging from the woods. He labels her as the woman from the woods. He describes her as tall. Her black hair flowed about her unconfined. Her robe was of the dun hue of the vapor and mist which hung above the trees, and fell off to her feet in dark, thick folds. She came on towards me swiftly and softly, passing over the ground. As this woman who clasped me closely than before, pressing her warm lips on mine, and it was as if her long hair fell round us both, spreading over my eyes like a veil. He goes on to talk about how he was so fascinated as she held out her arms to embrace him. I touched her hand, and in an instant the touch ran through me like fire from head to toe. For I had forgotten the woman from the fair hills, we will go on to that, and had given myself up heart and soul and body to the woman from the dark woods. We've got very, very heavy sensory detail of hellfire. This woman is symbolic of hellfire. She has dark, long hair that wraps around him like a veil. She is clasping his eyes. She is covering up his eyes. She is almost like the devil on your shoulder, whispering things to you. Something I found really interesting is how she is always labeled as the woman from the woods. And what I found really interesting about this was the fact that woods equals trees. The woods itself is very dark. That in itself it kind of like presents this idea of like danger, of like suspense and tension, of like not knowing what's beyond because it's so dark. You can't see clearly. There's no sun there. You just see this woman emerging, and she is so sexually perverse in the way she walks, in the way she talks, in the way she presents herself. She's exotic. She's got this long, luscious black hair, and she comes out from the woods. Now the woods equals trees. What do trees equal? Roots. Guys. From that scene from Interview with the Vampire, the AMC TV show, and he's got his spindly roots inside of me. I slept with the devil. Like, that is so prevalent in here. Obviously, this is long before Interview with the Vampire, but it's the same concept of roots and hell, and these roots are basically trapping him. These roots are her hair wrapping around him is the roots of hell. She is symbolic of hell. She's symbolic of danger. She's symbolic of like the 7 deadly sins, and he is falling for lust. He is falling for this very beautiful woman who is very obviously not the ideal woman, not the woman that society would deem appropriate. She is not a woman who she's a woman who is looked down upon. Even in her portrayal, she's basically wearing a robe, like a very sheer robe, I imagine, and of this dun hue. When I imagined the scene, I imagined it as like she was naked, you could see like her bosoms, you could like, it was like a very sheer robe, dark red. That's what I imagined. And it's this idea of Margaret being bad for Basil. The fact that he had forgotten the woman from the fair hills and had given himself up, heart and soul and body, to the woman from the dark woods is an easy explanation of like how erotically fixated he is on Margaret and how different Margaret is from the woman from the hilltops. We're going to move on to Clara. So Clara is described as light shining on me from the other side. I turned to look, and there was a woman from the hills beckoning me away to ascend with her towards the bright clouds above. Her arms, as she held it forth, shone fair even against the fair hills, and from her outstretched hand came long thin rays of trembling light which penetrated to where I stood, cooling and calming wherever they touched me. You know, it goes back to this like sort of incestuous like attraction he has to Clara. There's very like erotic words being used to describe his sister, such as trembling and penetrated. That's weird. That's weird. But the fact that she's described as like light, and the fact that she's got such godlike powers, like her outstretched hand, and there came long thin rays of light from her hand. This is like God. She is like a god to him, and it's just so strange like how physical her innocence is now shining through in this like chapter. She's so symbolic of like this heaven sent angel, and the difference in her, like even in positioning where she's in the hilltops, Margaret, or this woman from the woods, is emerging from, is like at the bottom. It's very prevalent of heaven and hell. It's like the parallels are insane. There is a section where, but the woman from the woods still came nearer and nearer until I could feel her hot breath on my face. Her eyes looked into mine and fascinated them as she held out her arms to embrace me. I touched her hand, and in an instant the touch ran through me like fire from head to toe. Fire, guys, it's hellfire. This is literally a warning, Basil. Like, you need to lock in, bruv. It's just like the parallels between this like lusty, sexy whore versus this angelic, can do no wrong, elegant Madonna Clara. There's very, it just shows the dichotomy between this fallen woman and this ideal woman. And it's also similar to Bram Stoker's Dracula in how Mina Harker is presented and how Lucy is presented. Lucy ends up turning into a vampire. Mina, although she also is in a similar faces similar consequences where she's like forced into vampirism, or almost, by Dracula himself, she prevails. She's the light of the crew, you know, the crew of light. That's their little gang, but she is what brings in that light, because she is what society deems as appropriate. She's what society is the standard woman. Lucy is the fallen woman in the same sense. Margaret is the fallen woman, and Clara is the ideal. So yeah, I would say that's one of my favorite dreams that he has, with the two women. Although it is weird how he kind of twists like Clara into his sexual fantasy, and like kind of establishes them as like rivals almost, like Clara and Margaret, because they are both beckoning him over. Well, Clara is beckoning him over with her trembling light, and and Margaret is quite literally like jumping onto him, kissing him, and you know, and he does choose Margaret in the end, by the way, just a little spoiler. But like the fact that he's kind of like, they're like parallels and they're like rivaling for his love, it's so strange. It is incredibly strange. So like this contrast of the physical and spiritual levels, such as physical being like Margaret and like her emerging from the woods, and then Clara like her descending from the hilltops, ascending to the hilltop, sorry, really sets the two apart, and says a lot about how he views the two women and how he views their relationship. So yeah, that's just my little take and my review of Wilkie Collins' Basil. Out of, I don't want to like give like strict rating. I'm not very good at ratings, but I would recommend this book. It is a very fun, enjoyable read. I think once you get past the retrospect and you start moving on with the plot, so like towards the end, I would say it was my favorite parts. Like I think structurally, like structure wise with the novel itself, Collins gets real funky with the way he starts like logging his diaries, so Basil's diaries. One of my favorite things, like things that will really push me into reading, that I'm so biased towards the whole epistolary narrative, or like the Dracula does a really good job of it, although it is incredibly lengthy and time consuming to read. Really enjoy when novels almost have like this multiple narration going on with like like driving the story forward, or having like this driving force, and using newspaper clippings and diary entries and letters from other people to move the story onwards. And that is one of my favorite things that this novel does really well. Like there is a section where we see for ourselves Basil's hysteria and his delusions and almost his mania, and it is like structurally really fun, creative, funky. I love it so much. So he does a really good job of like portraying the effects of Basil's trauma through this recollection of diary entries. I'm going to read you a few actually. Worst, I've forgotten what day of the month it is and cannot remember it for a moment together when they tell me, cannot even recollect how long I have been confined to my bed. I feel as if my heart was wasting away. Oh, if only I could see Clara again. The doctor and a strange man have been looking among my papers. My God, am I dying? Dying at the very time when there is a chance of happiness for my future life. He is referencing Clara. Funny. And then we have another section like from another day when he's able to write, Clara, far from her. Nothing but the little bookmarker she worked for me. Leave it round my neck when I can't move or breathe or think. If I could only be taken back, if my father could see me as I am now. Night again, the dreams that will come always of home. Sometimes the untried home in heaven, as well as the familiar home on earth. Our final diary logging. Clara, I shall die out of my senses unless Clara break the news gently. It may kill her. Her face so bright and calm, her watchful weeping eyes always looking at me. It goes on and on about Clara. So this is what the structure looks like. Like you can just see how we've got like this little paragraph and then like just pause and like lots of diary entries being logged in. We've got date 27th, I'm afraid my mind is seriously affected. Date 28th, a wakeful night, tormented by morbid apprehensions. Date 29, the people at the inn have sent to get me medical advice. Date 31st, weaker and weaker, I tried in despair today to write to Ralph. I could not. There's also moments where there is like this letter, like these letters being sent between two completely unrelated characters, but that shows like how Basil, it really presents how Basil has completely lost himself to his hysteria, to his mania, to his delusions, and he is no longer able to write. He's no longer able to commit to something he has for his entire life committed to, whether it was his romance book and his manuscript, or whether it was all about Margaret, or his retrospect when he was recounting his life, or even when he was, going through his hysterics and his delusions, he was still writing. But up until that point, and then we have like a complete different character, different narrator, of these two unrelated characters that we have not from the beginning of the book at all heard. Like we only get introduced to them like towards the last couple of pages, but it shows how seriously affected Basil is to the point where he can no longer write, and now we get someone else's voice, someone else's perspective, and we get to experience through someone else's eyes of how Basil is acting. I do recommend. It's Wilkie Collins by Basil, and yeah, I hope you all enjoyed that. I would just like to steal the attention very quickly. I am curating my own magazine. It will be filled with all of my works, all of my poetry, all of my screenwriting, my playwriting, my novels, any sort of work I do in the future. I would like to start curating magazines and issue them every single month, so I hope you will stay tuned for that. I am currently designing my first one. It is going to be about me because I'm a hashtag Dorian, I am so Dorian coded, guys. I am all about living that hedonistic, narcissistic life. Like, I'm just so amazing and great. No, it's just to introduce myself. But yeah, just keep an eye out. My magazine is called Mishti and Margins. I do have an Instagram page, so feel free to look at that when I start getting that sorted out. But all the information of my magazine will be down below. Oh my gosh, this is so YouTuber coded. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. And before I forget, it is 9:15. I am in the comfort of my bedroom and my name is Safa Ali and this is my design. So thank you so much for watching and I hope you all have an amazing day. Goodbye. Heart.